Hello, and now we're recording. And I love the comment you just made. I asked if you were ready. He said, "You're always ready." Well, how wonderful, Malcolm!
Yeah.
What a great start to our conversation about joy. And thank you very much for taking the time for this. Um, and as you know, as you might remember, the first question, Malcolm, is what is joy to you? What does joy mean to you?
Well, it's funny because when you sent me the invite, Joe, I thought, no, that's interesting because it's actually a subject that I don't stray a lot into the realms of joy. I turn to the psychotherapist mainly to go to the realms of suffering, but actually the two live together, and I think
Yes.
that actually when I found when I found moments of real joy, they're often on the back of real suffering. So something has been come through that has allowed the suffering to dissipate and for the joy to appear.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's like I- is it like an alchemy, or is it like a return, or I mean,
That's
um
the word I use in my groups, actually. It's alchemy. That's very intuitive of you, Joe. It's perfect. So that's exactly what
yes.
it is. And I think that joy is it's almost like it comes unbidden. There's a real difference for me, obviously, and for you, I'm sure as well, between hysteria and joy.
Yeah.
So I
Oh
think
yeah.
there's something about joy that springs from a very deep wellspring inside us. The other day I told this really crappy joke, which I'm not going to tell on here, and I suddenly started tears pouring down my face with laughter, and the people I'm telling it to are looking at me like I'm a lunatic. But it was such a moment of joy. It was just
Yeah.
sort of like feeling my funny bone tickled, and suddenly like it all exploded, and it was probably released a whole pile of stuff that was there. But
Fantastic. Um, the, I'll remind people now to write to you privately if they want to hear this joke.
no, yeah, absolutely, yes, yes. It wasn't a particularly good joke. It was just somehow something just I can't even remember what it was actually. So that's what it was. It was just that moment of actually sort
Yeah.
of like feeling like I'd lost my sort of grounded, solid self for a few moments, and then seeing the rippling come up, and then thinking, I love this. I'm going with it. And it was I probably spent about 3 or 4 minutes sort of in hysterics, and just, like the people I was with looking at me like, you are a lunatic, you know. So
How amazing.
but the real joy, Joe, comes for me when I'm running a therapy group, which is my
Yeah.
main thing. And sometimes in that space, it's almost like I'm something in me, and I think of it as the muse comes through me,
Yeah.
strikes the target spot on in a way that I could never have logically arrived at. And there's an incredible joy at actually being a conduit for something coming through me. And I'm not particularly into mysticism. So this I'm not talking about some spirit
Yeah.
overtaking me. It's almost like I get out of the way and then something happens, and then I'm filled with joy that I'm of use to life, actually. I think that's probably what happens there.
That's lovely. That's lovely. So what I'm hearing in particular is when we get out of the way, uh,
Yes.
y- then something else can blossom. Like a wellspring is the word you used.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's exactly right. It's like it's almost like it comes unbidden. I think that's the thing is
yeah.
that the joy I suddenly find myself with joy in my heart, and then it's not joy is fleeting. I think that for me anyway, it's fleeting. I don't sort of stay in bliss and joy all the time, but there are in that moments of touching it, then
Yeah.
there's magic.
Amazing. So question number two, of course, it's kind of been answered in a way in everything you've been saying, but how important is joy to you?
I think a life without joy is a life without meaning. I think at a deep level, I think that's what I would say. That actually, without having that sense of the magic of being in this human body for a limited period of time, that
Yeah.
actually has the capacity to sort of like to be lit up. I think it's absolutely
Yeah.
key for me.
Great. Well, yes, yes. Um, um, I know and I know there's so many people who are listening to this will really resonate with that. Both the unbidden and also the way it just lights us up. It lights our life up.
Yes,
And there can be a journey we sometimes need to go through to get out of the way and to uh, uh, turn some of the grit of life into something more
that's
lighter and
right.
more.
Now, the
um,
interesting thing is that when I try and run groups from my logical sort of left brain self, I can be quite clever, but I don't feel the joy with it. It's almost like if I'm in it, if my ego's in it, the joy doesn't come with it. It's perhaps a sense of satisfaction, but there's not a sense of that comes.
yes, yes. So what will be so Chris number three, because is what will be your top tip or top tips?
Well, I think my absolute top tip is the quote I sent you initially, which is that Rabindranath
Yes,
Tagore's three-line poem, which says, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I woke and found that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy." So my top tip around that would be when we are doing what it is that, that whatever the great powers that cause us to be incarnated, when we're doing our bit. For example, you're doing this and this is, many of these podcasts, and they're lifting you. So there's a sense
yes,
of service in that, and then there's a sense of
yes,
joy in the service. So for me, it's like I am so grateful that at 75 years old, I'm still actually managing to find a joy in what I do. And it's not just about doing; it's also about being. But I think the other thing my top tip would be is find a space, and I'm seeing this a lot in groups, to slow down and allow what wants to come through. We so often fill the space. So meditation,
yeah,
doing fulfilling our purpose, which doesn't have to be a mighty one. It can be. I remember traveling on a. I used to travel on a 27 bus to work when I was living in London, long time ago, when you had conductors. Most people won't even know what they are. But anyway, so there was a conductor on this bus that I used to travel on. I always longed to be on that bus because he would sort of laugh with all the little old ladies. He would tell jokes. The bus became like his little workshop room, and that
yes,
man was living his purpose and was bringing joy and getting joy from the bringing of joy.
yes, yes, yes. So connecting with uncovering our purpose
Yes.
um, is a pathway to. Do you feel that joy exists? It exists within us all. It's something that we dip into, or it sort of speaks through us from time to time.
I think it exists within us because I was just thinking of there's a guided meditation I often do. I've often listened to it at nights, and it's about that wellspring of silence that is always there within us. And I think if we look at the same
Yes,
way, that wellspring of joy is also always there with us, but we can cover it over with anxiety, with fear, with depression, with a sort of a sense of desolation. And I think we just have to get out of the way to allow joy to come through us.
very nice, very nice. That's fantastic. Malcolm, no, well, that's amazing, succinct and beautiful and lovely words. Um, Thank you very, very much for taking the time for this.
Very
Um,
joyful to see you, Joe. So that's
okay, thank you very much, Malcolm.
thank you.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. Bye
Cheers.
bye.